All right, guys, this is DJ Guns on Locked and Loaded on Deep Dallas Radio. I'm in the studio today with Mr. Jeffrey Saenz. Is that correct?
Yes, Jeffrey Saenz.
Saenz, okay.
Saenz.
All right,
Yes.
my bad.
No problem.
All right. So you're with the band.
Slave's Wage.
Okay.
Slave's Wage. Yes,
All right, so let's talk about Slave's Wage and how you guys kind of got started and how the name came to be.
Well, I moved up here to Dallas-Fort Worth area from Temple, Texas, in the year 2000. And I had actually begun making heavy metal music, Christian metal, that's what we are, Christian metal band. In 1996, had some difficulty finding like-hearted, like-minded musicians. Worked for about 4 years with people that I could find who were willing to come together and work together to that end. And finally made the jump to this area in 2000, looking for a group of like-hearted, like-minded people to make music with that glorifies the Lord Jesus Christ, that honors Him in its lyrical content. So
Right.
came up to this area in 2000. Shortly after that, ran into James Johnson, who is our lead guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working together now for 2020. We've been working together for 20 years,
Wow,
right at 20
nice.
years. So I met him, and we joined a project called Deacon Chuck that had a home base was Plano, Texas.
Okay.
And so we worked with Deacon Chuck together for a couple of years. A little bit after that, we ran into a gentleman named Lang, and he had a Christian industrial project that he was working on, and he'd already put out one CD. We met him. He was working on his second CD. He invited us to come in and do guitar tracks for him on his industrial metal project. So we actually recorded that with him, his second industrial metal project.
Right.
And shortly after that, we tried to make things work with him, but unfortunately, just things kind of came to an abrupt stop. He decided to go a different direction, and he really just stopped making music altogether. And he was actually the one who dubbed us Slave's Wage when we were working with him. It was going to be the name of the band, the group, the project, whatever, was going to be Lang and Slave's Wage.
Right.
And he dubbed us Slave's Wage. Again, that didn't quite work out the way we all wanted it to. And James and I at that point just said, hey, let's go ahead and do something together. We'll just keep the name Slave's Wage. And so thus began our journey together. James and I, Slave's Wage was born. And so that's kind of how we came to be, and how we were given the name Slave's Wage, how all that happened. So
Nice, very nice. So I know that I was introduced to you about 3 years ago, I want to say, and it was with the not this album, but I think it was another EP you guys had released.
I think the one when we got to know one another a little bit and started doing some things together was with Wisdom's Call, which was the CD before that. It was a 10-song CD.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And I remember playing some of that on the show, and then of course, life happens, we kind of lose touch and everything else. But you guys have always been in the back of my mind as one of those bands that you got to keep in your repertoire. And here we are 3 years later with your latest album, okay, Heaven or Hell, and we're gonna get into that here in just a second. But you as an individual artist yourself, like the vocalist and the guitar player, what are some of your influences as a musician?
For me, growing up, I would say heavy metal or hard rock wise, I grew up listening to Kiss. I think one of my very first introductions to music was the Kiss Alive 2 8-track.
Oh, nice.
And I remember having a little one-speaker 8-track portable little player, and I'd carry that thing with me I'd pop in my Kiss Alive 2 and pop in my Queen and pop in my Electric Light Orchestra.
Nice.
And so as time progressed, though, I got into Van Halen, of course, with their debut album. Jeez, I mean, just amazing. But got into Van Halen, Black Sabbath was always back there. Later on, when Ozzy made the transition to a solo career, Blizzard of Oz and Dire of a Madman, and just all of his other offerings. So those are Metallica,
right,
in the mid '80s with Master of Puppets, and at that point in time, I was a sophomore in high school, I think, and really into that album, and so just those are kind of some of my influences in terms of metal. We stepped into the '90s, and I remember Korn and Sepultura, Fear Factory. And
Fear Factory.
Really loved their rhythm guitar section and just the way they put their songs together. But those would be some of my personal influences in terms of metal.
Okay. Now, in your current lineup, how many are there?
We're four.
Okay.
We're four. We have Javier Sierra on bass guitar, Pedro Cortez on drums, James Johnson on guitars, and then myself doing rhythm guitars and vocals.
Right, nice. So now you're the main lead singer in the group, or do you got? Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about the latest album, Heaven or Hell, and there are two songs, of course, on the album that are my personal favorite. And I don't, people say, well, every song is your personal favorite because, well, I like music anyway. But Heaven or Hell kind of gives me that Dokken Dio feel, if you will. I mean, it's just that those heavy riffs, it's very melodic, and here you come with the vocals, and it's like, throw some Judas Priest in there,
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, that's interesting you should say that, because our lead guitarist, James, he's very influenced by old school Dokken, and he's very influenced by Judas Priest.
Right.
So, so it's just interesting that you should name those bands, because, those are some of our influences as a group. And so, of course, a lot of those influences are going to come through in the way we write songs and whatnot. But yeah, I have to say, definitely, Heaven or Hell, the song Heaven or Hell, we weren't actually really shooting to sound like anything. It just, in the writing process, it just came out.
Right.
And we've always, the band, looked at that as kind of our Iron Maiden tribute.
Yeah, okay, I can see that, yeah.
And, so if you listen to it, it has some Iron Maiden-esque, in terms of the riffing and that little gallop.
Kind of like the run through the hills.
Yes, exactly. It got that little gallop going on. And then our drummer, Pedro Cortez, he's very influenced by prog, loves prog metal, Dream Theater, Symphony X, all these crazy bands with their crazy time signatures and crazy ways of doing things. And so you can hear it, if you listen to it, there's little parts where that little prog-ish type of feel will kind of jump in and then jump back out. It won't stay for very long, but you can hear some of our drummers' input there into that song.
Because I noticed it in Heaven and Hell especially, you can, if you're a musician and you know what you're listening to, you notice just that subtle little time change or that little symbol that's oddly placed, but it works. But it works. It works all throughout the whole song, and of course the entire album is a great album. And I've listened to what you've given me so far. Now that I have the CD, I've listened to all of it. But the other song on the album, Soul Slave. Now, you and I talked before this, and kind of you said that it was kind of like the sore thumb that stuck out. But for a metal guy like myself, Soul Slave has every element of heavy metal that you would want in a band.
Yeah, that song actually was written in the '90s when I was still living in Temple, Texas, and it was actually written in the '90s. And so when we approached the songs for this CD, the name of the CD is Heaven or Hell, immediately I thought, well, we need to include this one on the CD. And yeah, it definitely sticks out a little bit more from all the rest of the songs on the CD, just mainly because of the vocal lines. The vocals on this song are all guttural, growling vocals, which with my history with Slaves Wage, we haven't done and we don't do.
Right.
We actually brought in a vocalist to do that song.
Yeah.
So I didn't do the singing on that. None of the band members did. We brought in a vocalist, and but we still wanted, even though it was going to stick out maybe a little bit from the rest of the songs on the CD, we still wanted to include this song on the CD, and I think it works. There's a lot of people that say it sticks out like a sore thumb, which it does, and I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of people that we've got some great comments on, and they say that, man, that's my favorite song on the entire CD, and that's good, because that's what when we approached this CD, we wanted to try to we wanted to try to have a song, at least that somebody could listen to this CD and say, I really like that song, I really like this song, I really like the other song, something that could appeal to a wide range of metal tastes. Right. And I think we did a pretty good job of doing that with this CD. So
right, and I'll agree. And the other song that I listen to is All Alone. Now here we go. We go from just kind of that Iron Maiden type feel, then we go to the heavy metal of Soul Slave, then we kind of ride that roller coaster back down. And here's All Alone, which is very melodic, very and it's just one of those songs that just reaches out and just grabs you.
Exactly. Yeah. yeah. I like all the songs on the CD. I think, again, they just cover a wide gamut of metal tastes. Mm-hmm. But this one, when we were writing this one, what was in the back of our minds was kind of like those old Ozzy, ballads.
Yep.
Right now my thoughts are escaping me here, but.
I'm getting a goodbye to romance type of feel to it.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Goodbye to romance.
Yeah.
Mama, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That kind of thing that Ozzy would do and does still today. So that was kind of in the back of our minds as we wrote this song. And it's funny that our bass player at the time, he hated this song. He hated playing it. He hated practicing it. He hated working on it. And even our guitarist, James, he didn't particularly care for this song too much from a solo lead guitar perspective. It just wasn't his thing.
Right.
But I think he really does a great job on all the solo work, and what he says was his worst experience in terms of working on the solo for this song. I think it's one of his shining moments on the CD, just the solo work.
The solo work in that song alone, you sit back and you listen to it, and of course, and I say this to anybody, any music enthusiast who listens as much as I do. There are certain songs that you can listen to on your car stereo or on your home theater system, or there's certain songs like All Alone where you have to put on the headphones. It's just one of those songs where if you're not listening, you're going to miss something. And in this song was where you put the headphones on and you hear every little nuance of that song. So.
Yeah. It was a weird song to work on because there was a lot of little parts coming in and out. There was a lot of layering of parts, and especially when it came to the vocals and doing harmonies, there's a lot of little harmony parts there. And so it was weird working on this song because when I presented it to the group, all throughout rehearsal, we could only do so much. There's only 4 of us.
Right.
So there's only so much you can do in terms of a rehearsal session with 4 people. We didn't have enough guitarists to cover all the different number of guitar parts. And, so everybody was kind of, including me, everybody was kind of like, I hope, hopefully this turns out as good as you say it's going to turn out. I was hearing it in my head, but we just couldn't put all that into one rehearsal session with 4 musicians. And so I think we were all pleasantly surprised at how it turned out. Like, wow, Jeff, you heard right on that. It came together, But there was some questions at the beginning as to whether or not that would come together like I was hearing in my head.
So when you guys go into the studio and you write, does somebody bring like a riff or a drum beat or a vocal or a lyric come into the studio, or is it more of a collaborative effort?
No, it is a collaborative effort. We don't, whenever we're beginning, as we are now, we're working on our fifth project. We already have one song under our belt for the next project coming up. But definitely, when we come into a new musical project, basically, we all know it, and it's like, okay, everybody just gather your ideas, and so we record, and then we come together, and everybody just presents what they have at the moment, whether it's a bass guitar riff or normally it's a guitar riff, and we'll just present those. We'll record them in our session together as we begin the writing process for a new project, and then we'll record all those. We'll listen back to them. Then our next rehearsal together, we'll come back. Okay, which one of those ideas did we like? And which one of those ideas do we want to pluck out and start working on and crafting that into a piece of music?
Right.
And so that's how we've approached it historically as a band. And so that's how it works. So we'll work one idea, we'll work it and flesh it out into a song, and then normally, because of our schedules, we're kind of real regimented in our approach to songwriting. And so, and all of us are, for the most part, are married, have kiddos, have full-time jobs, so we can't rehearse 2, 3, 4 times a week, so our rehearsals are limited to 4 hours on a Saturday.
Right.
Every Saturday. So there's only, there's only so much we can do there. But, we'll come together and we'll work 3 months on any given song idea. So we'll pick out a song idea. Okay, we like that riff. Let's work 3 months on that and put that and make that into a song. And then when the 3 months are up, we basically stop. And for us, that keeps us from just spinning our wheels and going over,
Right.
If you don't put the brakes on something, you can just constantly come back to it. And you're working on one song for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, and it's like, no, we got to put the brakes on it somewhere, and give us plenty of time to work out an idea, flesh out an idea, come up with new ideas to make that into a song, but not so much time to where it's just a never-ending process, because you can always do something better. You can always listen back and say, oh well, let's change this, let's change that, let's extend that, let's shorten that. But unless you have put brakes on it, it never comes to an end.
Right,
so.
Exactly. Because I know, me being a musician myself, and of course I haven't played in years, but I do know that, you go into a song or you go into a project, and as you say, you got to put the brakes on it, because I know for a fact that you can overthink something so much that what you had intended now becomes diluted. And it's not what you wanted to get across.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I totally get it. So, speaking of Slave Wage, you guys are a Christian metal band.
Yes.
Now, my history with Christian metal bands, goes back, way back to the '80s. Stryper was the number one back in the '80s.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, and of course, then I got into Patra and all those other bands. But then in the '90s, I discovered a little band out right here at Dallas-Fort Worth called Godfear. The first metal Christian band that I'd heard, And then there was Eloi, ELOI.
Interesting.
They're no longer together, but I still have both their CDs, which is very good stuff, mind you.
Awesome.
And that's how I kind of got into the old Christian metal movement myself. And then I don't like the word discovered, because it's like, oh look, I discovered a seed. I'm going to plant it and I'm going to water it. But no, it was more along the lines that I heard you guys for the first time. I was introduced to you guys, mind you, and said, hey, you might want to check these guys out. And I'm like, okay. So the first the CD that I heard, and you and I connected, and I was like, okay, all right. And like I said, again, fast forward to now, and you guys now have this album out, and I want to say that this is a somewhat of a departure from the first time I heard you guys, and which all of it's good from what I've heard, but this album here, I think, kind of defines who you guys are.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. This CD, it definitely, the thing that stands out and it sets this CD apart from the last CD, which was Wisdom's Call. We had 10 songs on that CD. We have 11 songs on this CD. On this CD, we have 3 musical numbers interspersed between the lyrical numbers. On the last CD, Wisdom's Call, we just had 1. But what really sets this CD apart is, one, how the songs differ, and there's a variation in the style. Again, there's more of a stylistic difference from song to song, where there's maybe more for a metal lover to enjoy and hear their particular brand of metal within the context of this CD. But also, what sets this CD apart from the last one, in my opinion, is the fact that we went into a studio in Grapevine, Texas. I mean, Nomad Studios. I mean, just really professional guys with Russell Holler working as the engineer on it and doing the tracking and the mixing. And then Gary Long, who's been around forever and worked with the biggest and best in terms of artists and bands and studios and record labels. I mean, he mastered this CD. Yeah. And so what causes this CD to stick out also from the previous one is the fact that just the quality of the production on it. Right. It just sticks out. And so we're very grateful to Russell Holler for lending us his time and talent and ability, as well as Mr. Gary Long. So that would be my opinion on why it sticks out from the previous one.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, because I mean, just the production alone on this CD is just, especially with Soul Slave, when you can deliver that song on the level in which it's produced and written and composed, there's no comparison. I'm sorry. There's really not. Because that's a very intense song. It delivers a very powerful message, number one.
Yes, sir.
Number two, though, it's just everything about the song, the riffs, the solos, and especially the drums in this one is just like, it's like he's all over the place. And this is no 5/8 jazz signature either, okay? This is not your mom and dad's heavy metal, okay? This is what I consider is a cross between kind of your 80s thrash with some 90s in there, and all of a sudden you got some 2000s thrown in there. So there's a wide mixture of things going on here. And it's just one of those songs that if people were to sit down and really listen to it, even if you're not a Christian, even if you're not into Christian metal, it doesn't matter. Sit down and listen to this song, and I guarantee you'll change your mind.
And a big shout out on that song, Soul Slave, to Daniel Boss out of San Antonio. He's the one who did the vocals for that. He used to be with the group Becoming Sons out of San Antonio, Texas. So just a big shout out to him for his great work on the vocals on that song, and also to the small record label that we are part of, Sancrosanct Records out of Michigan, and Tony Badia. We really appreciate him and appreciate him allowing us to be a part of the Sancrosanct Records family. So,
and speaking of that, glad you guys do have that, because I mean, just the cover design on the CD itself, I mean, it's just, I mean, that's spot on. This takes me back to like a Sabotage cover. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
I mean, you think of Sabotage, and you think of their CD covers with this artwork, and that artwork is just, whoever did that, I mean, I commend them. That's just great.
Yeah. No. That's just another area that you just touched on, where we upped our game a little bit more. Thankfully, we were able to do that. But the person who came up with the artwork, we came up with the concept, which is the angel and heaven on one side and hell on the other side, but we came up with the concept, and then we handed this off to what's his name? He's out of Finland, and the name escapes me right now. I can't believe it. But we handed it off to this gentleman in Finland who has a graphics company, and it might come to me later here in the interview, but he just did a phenomenal job bringing our stick figure drawings to life. I mean, that's literally what we gave him. We gave him some pencil drawings of
Right.
a stick figure and different little things, and he just brought it all to life beautifully.
Right.
So so hats off to him, and I forget his name.
Well, anyway, but again, it's a great cover. It's very eye catching, and I think in today's society things have to be eye catching. And when I first saw this released on your page, and I was like, well, that's some good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And then your drummer went and had it put on the drum head. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
And so I used the drum head for all kinds of promotion for you guys. So it's just great stuff. So where can we find your music at?
Well, you can go to our website at www.slaveswage.net. We're also on Facebook under Slaves Wage. We have a Twitter account, YouTube, Slaves Wage / or YouTube / Slaves Wage. I think we're on Instagram too. So if you can visit any one of those sites, but especially our .net site,
right.
slaveswage.net, if you go to the store page, then it'll give you links to where you can buy the CD. It'll take you to our merchandise store where you can buy T-shirts and stickers, and heck, they even have
I'm gonna get a T-shirt.
They even have shoes and bean bags and iPhone covers. So they just have all kind of coffee mugs. So they have everything, But visit us on slaveswage.net, and that'll give you everything you need to know in terms of where to pick up the CD and all that good stuff.
So do you guys have any shows lined up here?
We do not, just because of all the COVID stuff. We had a few that we were looking at doing this past year, but COVID shut that down.
Mm-hmm.
We did one in October in Royce City, Texas, and that was our one and only show, which we had a great time and glad to be a part of that event. But going into this new year, we don't have anything scheduled per se, but we definitely hope to make up for last year and have at least 8, 9, 10 outings this year, especially with some of the events that the record label we're working with has themselves involved in. So we're really excited about this year, about being a part of, if everything works out good, a part of Audio Feed in Illinois.
Okay.
And then there's another festival in Missouri that we're looking forward to hopefully being a part of. So, again, just check the website for all that stuff. So hopefully as we turn this into this new year, we'll have a list of dates and cities available.
Well, I'm be glad when all this stuff is over with and you guys can get back out there and start, playing and all that other stuff. So, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap up this session, but I do want to come back, again, maybe when the next CD is released, and we'll talk about that. And you guys have hopefully been out there playing and gigging, touring, whatever. But I appreciate this opportunity, man. It's been a long time coming.
Shane, thank you very much, man. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, it's been DJ Guns with Jeffrey Saenz of Slaves Wage. Going to get you back to the music. Here you go.